Hello, guys. Hello. If you can hear me and if you can see me right now, please just say something on the comment box. If you can hear me and if you can see me, please just say something in the comment box so that I'm sure that you're hearing and seeing me. Just a quick introduction. My name is Milton Tutu. Maybe you've heard about me somewhere on Forbes list or something. I'm just kidding. But my name is Milton. I am the CEO and founder of Blob. Blob is a platform where you can like literally take marketing-based online courses, and we also like try to position marketing talents in Africa with like remote jobs so that they can just explore their talents in a different horizon. And in the studio with me, I have one of like the most exceptional person I've like ever met in my life. We're having like a chit chat backstage, and it was just so amazing. I mean, I can see her; she's smiling in the studio right now, and I'm going to bring her up in a bit. But just a brief intro about her. If you've ever heard about like the grandmothers and grandfathers of content marketing, Aisha is that person, right? She's a content marketing leader in her space, and she has worked with different companies. And right now, like she works with an international company, and she also lives in the UK. And literally, there's not that person to teach you how to like get international remote jobs like Aisha, because she also has like this portfolio templates that you can use to position yourself so that when recruiters reach out to you, you can show it to them and they have like no other reason to say that hell yeah, I want to like hire you. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the studio, Aisha Owolabi. Yay!
Yay! Oh my god, this is probably one of the best intros for me that I've heard in
So
a long
dramatic.
time.
I know. You're
I
welcome.
love personally, I love it. This is one I'm going to save. When people ask me like, "Oh, can I see your work?" I'm just going to send them a link to this stream
Oh
because
yeah,
this is a lot of
thumbs
hype.
up, thumbs up. So
No,
please,
but really,
if you can see and hear us, please just let us know in the comment box below. We have Oluwatoyi Akande right here saying hi, Aisha. Nice to meet you. So Aisha, before we like get into what we have to like talk about today, can you just can we meet you? Can you tell us who is Aisha?
Good question. Well, my name is Aisha. I'm a content marketer. I've been in this industry for around 7 years now. I'm currently living in the UK on the Global Talent Visa. Before now, I worked and lived in Mexico, where I was working for a global company. And before then, I lived in Nigeria and also worked in Nigeria for some Nigerian fintech companies and international companies as well remotely. I'm
Okay.
really excited to be here today. I think this is a topic that is definitely top of lots of people's minds in terms of just being able to work remotely from anywhere in
Okay.
Africa. So I'm really excited to share, all the different tips and insights from my own
Yeah.
experience and hopefully inspire
Yeah.
somebody out there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's me.
awesome, amazing. Good to have you here. It seems everyone here came to see you, right? I can see you and hear you well too. Hi, Aisha. Dada Tumininu is saying hi, Aisha. Sandra is saying hi, Aisha.
Hello.
Nice intro, Milton. Hello,
Thank you
I
so
am someone as
much
well. You
for
can also say
joining.
hi, Milton, right? You can also say hi, Milton. Thank you. Okay. So I mean, if you're watching this from Nigeria, we understand like what's going on in the country right now and like the whole chaos with the election. So just know that like we see you and like we hear you, and hopefully everything turns out in our favor. Because I'm also Nigerian, but I live in Rwanda currently. So hopefully everything turns out in our favor. And I think it's also important for us like have conversations like this, like position yourself for like international remote jobs. Just in case you want like a second option, you can always have that option. Okay. But I mean, excited that we're having this conversation. So basically, this conversation is going to go from us like just talking about what like the remote job market is right now, the advantages, and also like you preparing yourself for like international recruiters that are looking for like African talents to hire, and like how you can like find opportunities, interview preparation, overcoming challenges, and like just a couple of things that will help you, in this like in like looking for like international remote jobs and opportunity. So currently, if you're looking at the an overview of like the remote work in like around the world, right? You will see that like the global remote workplace services like market side is to grow from like over 20 billion USD, right, to in 2022 to like over 58.5 billion USD by 2027. And one thing is that like most of these recruiters outside the country, in like in Europe, in USA, they are literally coming to Africa to like look for talents to hire, right? They are literally coming to Africa to like look for talents to hire, right? Either they're coming here to like look for talents to hire, or they literally want to like work with people here in Africa. Because one thing about we Africans, we know how to work with urgency, right? We know how to like execute with urgency. Because when you're thinking about the things going on around you, you will literally want to like get the job done. So most of these guys just come here to like hire, from Africa and like work with African talents. And I mean, one of like the most important things when it comes to like remote work is like better work-life balance. So currently I work remotely, right? I am the growth and marketing manager for like a very big e-commerce platform in Africa. If you're a creator, you must have used that platform right now, right? And I mean, I work remotely. I can work from like anywhere in the world, right? So like today I can be in Kigali, tomorrow I can be in Uganda, and just like tour Africa while I'm still doing my work. And like that's one of like the beauty of like remote work. You have that work-life balance where you don't have to be waking up. I mean, if you live in Lagos, the stress of like waking up in the morning, right, by 4 a.m. trying to like go from Ada down to VI. Like it's just so crazy, so much chaos, right? So much chaos. And also like you get to like save a whole lot of money when it comes to like cost of like commuting. So you literally don't have to like spend money on transportation. You are literally working from the comfort of your home 24/7. Like I mean, some days I don't even go out. Some weeks I don't go out because I'm always at home every other day working. And when I'm tired, I can work from a cafe. You can also like work from anywhere and at any time. Literally, Aisha can decide to like go to France right now. And I'm like, okay, do you know what? I want to like be here for a month and I want to like work from here for like a month, right? And that's going to be possible because she has that freedom to actually, work from like wherever she wants to work from. And it gives you flexibility, more time for family and friends, and basically just like more time to actually produce awesome work, right? I think there was a research, I can't remember, but there was a research that some scientists in the US carried out. And I mean, the findings from that research says that people that work remotely are more productive than people that work from the office every other day, because you're putting yourself in a much more position to actually think better and create amazing work. Aisha, what do you think about that?
I mean, ultimately, I think remote work, I can say that it changed my life personally. I started working remotely full time during, the pandemic. And I think that was also sort of the time when everyone was plunged into just remote work. And for me, that just opened my eyes to a brand new perspective and really helped me understand that my productivity was not tied to going to work in an office. And I was able to just explore what working on my own terms in my own location looks like. And, Milton, you've preached right now, the glory of remote work. And honestly, it's really amazing. But I also understand that, this is from conversations with people as well. Like people like to find sort of like a balance. So people struggle with remote work initially, like when they start working from home, and it's like, oh, how do I make sure that I'm staying productive? But what I've learned is ultimately like the more time you spend like trying to optimize your work and making sure that you've put the right systems in place, like remote work can really turn out to be a very life-changing experience. So yeah, I'm all for just empowering people to be able to at least have that option and be able to make that choice. If you feel like, down the line, remote work is not for you, that's fine. But ultimately, for you to be able to position yourself and compete globally with your counterparts in marketing across, the world, and still get access to these amazing opportunities and earn a higher salary and just be able to open up, a new experience for yourself, I think ultimately is the most important thing, especially when we're thinking about like the market in Nigeria and Africa right now, like people who are still working for local companies and are trying to expand their horizons beyond their locations right now. Milton, you're on mute. This is giving Zoom.
I'm sorry. I also love that you
That's good.
mentioned that. I also love that you mentioned that you have like the opportunity to like earn more, right? There's this thing that like some people on the internet say, "Oh yeah, I earn in dollars, I like spend in naira," right? Which gives you like a better spending ability, actually, right? So I mean, these are like just the advantages of like remote work, but there are a whole ton of people right here, right now, and they don't know how they can get started. And I mean, how so someone that don't have an idea of like how to like do this thing, they're confused. What do you like? What's the first and most important thing you think that they can get started with?
That's a great question. I think the very first thing is honestly, once you've decided, like, yeah, you want a remote job, and I think even if it's not a remote job, once you've decided that you want a new job, the very first thing
Hmm.
to do is align, like, what do you want to do? So
Sure.
I think that's often the first step that a lot of people don't take. People just go into job searching, they just go into like applying to companies, and you're not doing that strategically because you've not considered, first of all, like, what are you trying to actually get? Like, what's your goal? What kind of job are you
Hmm.
looking for? What's the job title that you're looking for? What kind of
Hmm.
industry or company do you want to work in? How
Hmm.
much do you want to earn? All of those things are very important, and those are questions that you need to ask yourself first, because those
Hmm.
answers are the things that you're going to use to really build an application that will be strong
Sure.
enough to get you to the place that you're trying to get to. So I would say the very first thing is outlining what you're trying to achieve from the process before you even start thinking about like all the other things that come. And I can just keep talking and tell you all the other things that come now, or you can ask me, whichever one is fine.
Okay. Okay, so guys, literally how we want to have this conversation is like you ask us questions and we answer. We have something for you as well, but just like if you have questions, right, just put it in the comment box and we answer, right? So one platform that like most of these recruiters actually go to like check people out is LinkedIn, and people are sleeping on LinkedIn, right? I can understand that TikTok is good for like creating content, Instagram to like be an influencer, Twitter for like bands and rants, but people are literally sleeping on LinkedIn, right? And they don't know how to like build like a strong online presence on LinkedIn. What do you think like when it comes to like LinkedIn, like building like your presence online? What do you think is like the first thing that people should like actually consider?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's just as you said, I think LinkedIn is honestly a really amazing platform. Just even from my experience building a career, and using LinkedIn to advance my career, I think I've learned a lot
Hmm.
just experimenting with the platform. In terms of positioning yourself for a new job specifically, like something that is important is making sure that your LinkedIn profile is optimized and is set up in such a way that if a recruiter is searching, they'll be able to find you. And when they find you,
Find
they'll be able
you.
to easily understand what your strengths are, what you're doing, and
Sure.
if you're open to a new opportunity. So first off, like a
Sure.
good place to start thinking about like what you want to do with is your summary. So I've seen lots of
Hmm.
people have like profile summaries that are really skimpy. They don't say a lot really. They just some people
Sure.
don't even have a summary, like it's just
Sure.
empty. And it's similar to your resume. You need to position yourself with your LinkedIn. You need your LinkedIn profile to be at a place where if a recruiter looks at it, immediately they know, okay, this is what this person has been doing. This is who they consider themselves to be, and this is what they're interested in, and this is the type of job that they're looking for. So
Hmm.
ultimately, sometimes it's complex. You don't want to say that you're looking for a job specifically because maybe you're still working at a particular company and you don't want to put that out there. But it's important to think about like your profile summary. What do you want to say about yourself? What's the message that you want to pass across
Hmm.
to anyone that is looking? It might not even be a recruiter. Sometimes, like, you have to understand that opportunities can come from anywhere. Sometimes there's people who are just like looking or reviewing, or somebody comes across your
Hmm.
profile randomly. Like, what's that impression that you want them to leave with?
Hmm.
And the way that I like to
Hmm.
think about it is to think about like, who am I with respect to like my career? Am I a content
Sure.
marketing leader? Am I a content marketing marketer, a manager? Am I a content marketer? Am I a tech content marketer? Like, who am I? What
Hmm.
category fall into, and how do I want to define or describe myself? So what's that? And then what are some of the things that I've achieved in the last couple of years in my career? Like how long has my career, existed for? So you need to put like your years of experience, your key highlights, achievements, and your interests as well. And also sometimes it can be really cool to give people a glimpse of what you're like or what you're interested in outside of your work. So you can add some of your interests. That could also be really good because that helps you, position as a human being, because at the end of the day, ultimately, like people want to connect with people. So I would say like just make sure your profile summary is concise and it talks about your key career experiences. Don't fill it with buzzwords, because it can be very tempting to just like use lots of big words and just fill it with lots of buzzwords. Buzzwords can be great, but ultimately I think you should stay true to sort of like yourself and how you want to position yourself and your experience as well so far. And that's just your LinkedIn profile, but LinkedIn as a platform, I think if you're looking for a job, it's really important to actually have some level of activity on LinkedIn. And this is just because like there's so much that's possible. Just by engaging with people, growing your network, you get access to, first of all, more thoughts, you get to see more people, you get access to more opportunities, and people also like discover you as well. And that's something that can be really helpful, because when you start thinking about taking a creative approach to looking for a new job, some of that can include maybe sending a message to someone on LinkedIn, or asking someone else that you've been connected with and engaging with on LinkedIn to make an introduction to somebody else at another company. Like those are things that people do. Literally a week ago, someone messaged me to ask me to make an intro to someone at a job that I had worked at like 3 companies ago, literally. And I was just like, fair enough. Like this person because the lady, she had connected with me like around a month ago, been engaging with my content, she joined my community. She's been like in my face, right? She even sent me like her portfolio to review. And then ultimately I reviewed the portfolio and I thought it was really good. And about a week later, she asked me if I could kindly make an intro. And I mean, at that point, I was not going to say no, because this is someone that I could evidently see has put in work and is trying to, grow themselves, grow their career, and they're not also being offensive about it. And all of that took place on LinkedIn. So ultimately, I think reframing and rethinking the way that we approach those platforms can be really instrumental to your search strategy in Twitter.
Sure. Awesome. Just like add a couple of things to what you've said right now. And I actually love that reaching out to your networks to introduce you to like other people. That's a new strategy I should employ. And also, guys, while you're listening to this, also employ it as well. But when it comes to like LinkedIn also, right, there is something people don't know, but it's called LinkedIn SEO, right? So if you're like looking for a job as like a product marketer, in your like bio and your summary, use those keywords, right? Product marketer, product marketing manager, right? Just use those keywords in your job experience. Use those keywords as well, right? Also, when you're sharing content on LinkedIn, share content like around your job. Share content around the things that you know how to do, right? If you are a content marketer, literally share content as a content marketer. If you are an SEO writer, literally share content as an SEO writer. Because the thing is that people don't just look at like your summary and your job history, they look at the things that you share about, like the things that you write about, right? So like actually create content there, right? Don't just go there and be like, oh, I'm open to like job or what. Just go there and like create content, because it also like helps like increase your presence on that platform as well. And also one more thing that people should also like learn how to do, that you should learn how to do is be very loud about the things that you do, right? Be like so loud about the things that you do. If you get an opportunity to even be in it on a Twitter space to talk about XYZ thing in like content or like growth or product marketing or whatever, right? Be so loud about it on LinkedIn, right? So if you get like a TV interview, a radio interview, be so loud about it. Have all of those things there on your LinkedIn. And also lastly, when you're like learning and taking courses, don't learn and take those courses and just add your certifications and everything that, oh yes, I just no. There's this thing that most startup founders say, build in public, right? Now, just turn that a bit, learn in public, right? While you're learning, be sharing about your own learnings from like your courses on your LinkedIn profile, so that these people see that, okay, this person is actually interested in their personal development and in actually like their own personal advancement. which will also like give you like a stronger, opportunity, like, and like a stronger, platform to get a job or to actually like make people find you. And again, LinkedIn is not just a platform. It's not like your portfolio, quote unquote, where it's just static. It's like a moving train. You have to like keep updating it every now and then with the recent things that you're doing. You have to like keep up, like you just literally have to like make sure that every single thing that you're doing, if you are in a Twitter space, talk about it, write about it, have a newsletter. If you are, if they invited you for like a TV interview or like a radio interview, literally just talk about your experience there, so that people will see that yes, okay, this person is actually making moves to not just look for a job, but this person is also like an authority in the industry, so they understand what they are talking about. So again, if you are in that space where you're like looking for like an international remote job, or if you're even looking for a job, LinkedIn should like be your number one platform, literally. Yes, TikTok for you to go and dance and all of those things. Instagram for you to like, pepper us with your vanity photos, and Twitter for you to like rant and bant. But LinkedIn should be that platform where you literally take serious. So go and learn things like LinkedIn content marketing. Go and learn things like, how to like create like a strong LinkedIn profile, or how to like create a strong summary. And you literally have platforms like ChatGPT that could help you do those things. Then you edit it to fit into like your own taste and into the things that you're doing. So use the tools that are available at your disposal, and don't let those tools to use you. I know that's not like an aspire to perspire thing, but again, agenda must agenda, right?
I just wanted to put it out there that Milton is advising people to use ChatGPT to rewrite their LinkedIn profiles.
Oh wow!
And ultimately, I actually don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that AI is really interesting, and that's probably a conversation for later. But I think that AI could be really game changing for content marketing. But that's not why we're here today. So
yeah,
let's do something.
We can have that conversation some other time.
Yes,
exactly. Yes. So outside of LinkedIn, there are other like platforms that people can actually like use, like find like opportunities. And do you like, so what are like these platforms, website that you think that people can actually go and like check out for like remote work and like remote jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's honestly tons of them, and I think the very first thing to do would be to Google it. And as much as this sounds like, why am I in a webinar where you're telling me to Google something? It ultimately, like, you will be surprised how much Googling things can actually save your life, like as a person.
Sure.
Personally, just thinking about my own experience, I think looking for work for me has mostly been based on like weworkremotely.com. I think weworkremotely.com is a really great website. And then also LinkedIn. When I lived in North America, I also used Indeed because it was really popular there. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, what I would just say is think about like what country, you're looking for a new job and you want a remote job, but what country do you want to work in? Do you want to work for a country in like APAC region? Do you want to work for a country in the Americas? Do you want to work for a country in Europe? Do you want to work for a country in EMEA? Like where exactly are you looking? What are you considering? Mm-hmm. And then think about like what are the job platforms that are most popular or most widely used in those regions, and then make sure that that's where you're searching, because ultimately like in different parts of the world, there are more tools that are more popular than others. There's some tools that are global tools, but ultimately, like there are some communities and there are some tools that are more popular than others in different parts of the world. So I would say do your Googles and do your research, like identify what it is that you're looking for, what part of the world you want to work in, and companies in those parts of the world, like where those recruiters, like where do they post their jobs, where do they share work. Even if you start your search by looking for roles that are not necessarily marketing, just understand like, okay, in Europe it seems like these tools are really widely used, like this is where people put their job ads up. And also it's very important, while we're on the topic of like looking at different countries, something that can be very disenfranchising for people who are looking for remote work is also when you apply to a job that says remote, but then, ultimately maybe they're looking for like US remote or Europe remote, stuff like that. So what I would say is it's really important to look at platforms like Glassdoor or Blind to get a sense of like what people saying about the company, ask questions beforehand, because that can also be really impactful in making sure that you're not ultimately like putting efforts into places where you're going to get rejected, and it's not because you're not good enough. It's just because like they're not looking to hire people maybe living in Africa, for example. So you need to make sure that the kind of remote work or the kind of companies that you're looking for are actually companies that encourage like global remote work. And something that could be helpful is also like going on their websites, reading through like their culture and careers pages, and just spending a bit of time to make sure that like before you spend all your time constructing a really great application for a specific job, make sure that that job is one that you actually stand a chance for, because ultimately that would also reduce sort of like just the unnecessary rejections that you would get if you're applying without any sort of strategy.
Okay, makes sense, guys. She just like Aisha just gave us a masterclass right now. Like, if you're listening closely, she was literally like mentioning tools and tips and things that you should actually do. One platform that she mentioned is We Work Remotely. Go check out our platform. They literally like put a whole lot of like job opportunities out there, and recruiters actually use that platform as well. She also mentioned Glassdoor.com. Check out Glassdoor as well. It's also like a great platform. So, and also like you're going to have like a replay of this webinar that we just had. So again, you can like always watch it over and over and over and over again, just like pick out tips and points that you're actually missing in real time. So I mean, apart from like these platforms that you mentioned, are there like communities that you think people could be part of?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm starting to see in the world, and this is something that honestly excites me so much, is I'm starting to see like specialist communities for like, like specific areas of marketing. So ultimately in the past, like, in fact, I think marketing is one of those sort of industries that community hasn't really been a strong sort of like focus for the industry. And this is on a global scale as well, from just like the research that I've done. If you look at like technology industries, like maybe people who are software engineers or software developers, designers, there have been like global communities that exist in those areas or in those industries for talent for a very long time. If you look in engineering, there's people who are like, I don't know, TopTal has a community, but there's like lots of different engineering communities. If you look at design, Figma is doing community. So many different like global companies have launched communities, and that's something that they've invested lots of resources in nurturing. What I've seen on the marketing side is lots of like independent marketing experts who have built communities and built like independent brands, and that can also be really useful. But ultimately, what I would say is there are lots of communities out there. Because I'm a content marketer, one that I found really, really useful is Superpath. I think it's superpath.co, because that's a community for content marketers specifically. And ultimately, when you join the Slack group there, you get access to like lots of jobs, lots of resources, lots of conversations, and also like networking opportunities. And also locally, I mean, like I run a community myself, Smarketers Hub. That's one for like, budding marketers across Africa. I don't know why I can't speak English. Sorry. But yeah, that one is one for growing marketers across Africa. And there's tons of them. So what I would say is a two-pronged sort of like, I guess, advice. First is to think about like, what kind of community do you want to join? Like, what are you actually looking for? Is it just access to jobs, or do you want a community that is more hands-on? You want to have conversations with other people? Do you want to be able to network with your peers? There's so many of them out there. And something else that is also fun is like people start communities literally these days. Like someone reached out to me, I think about 2 weeks ago, and invited me to join like their community for marketing, like seniors that they've just started. And what they're trying to do is really just like create a space for people who are leaders in marketing to like hang out, literally. And that's the sort of community that they're creating. Whereas like on the other hand, there's communities where obviously like people are talking about like getting work or sharing advice. And there's like communities that are more technical as well, where people are actually answering questions and talking about tools and breaking things down. So ultimately, I would say, think about like what kind of community you want to join and what it is that you're looking for community. Obviously, for the purpose of this webinar, if it's like looking for jobs specifically, I would say Superpath, but I would say also do some research, think about like, do you want to join a specific like niche community? If you're a social media marketer, like Buffer has a community, do you want to go and join the Buffer community? If you're a growth marketer, are there growth marketing communities specifically that you want to join? So that's how I would think about that. But ultimately, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, actually, and also, I mean, also like see if you can like join like local communities. When I say local, I mean like communities in your country. Like for instance, I mean there is Marketers Hub, right? Blob we have Blobbers Tribe as well. And I mean Marketers Hub, they actually like share job opportunities in their community. We also like share job opportunities. We just recently hired like head of growth for Money Africa, and also like a growth marketer for like a company in Lagos as well. So like there are actually like platforms that's like you can find, or there is also like this one called like people in products, where like people in products, even like growth products content marketers, that are also like working like in tech, they're also like part of that community. So that, I mean, I think you can search for that on Google. People in products, it's an amazing community that you can be part of. And just also like ask like your friends and like your seniors, and ask them like, oh, what are the communities that you think I should be part of. And I am sure that they are going to send you recommendations. But the thing is that you and one thing about communities is you, with the community, you're not doing it alone, right? You have people out there too that can help you. So you can like request for like someone to like jump on a Zoom call with you to help you like prepare for like your interview. You can share your portfolio there for people to actually help you review your portfolio, and they're going to like give you feedback, right? So that's why it's called a community, for you to like work with other people, and for other people to also help you as well. So I mean, and
Yeah.
for also like the people who like this conversation, please go check out superpath.co if you are a content marketer. I'm sure that that community is also going to help you. Now, so again, one thing that most like African talents, or one challenge that most African talents have is they are well positioned, right? Recruiters reach out to them, but after the first stage of interview, no one gets back to them again, or they just drop off, or to use like a marketing word, they churn. You understand? So, so how do you think people can like prepare best for like a remote interview?
Ultimately, I think the very first thing I would say is, people ghost. Like, I think more than anything, the people that ghost the most are like recruiters. So, first of all, like just know that sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Something else might have happened. Ultimately, like I mean, I think if a company stops replying you abruptly, especially after you've had like a recruiter chat and they don't say anything to you, personally, I think you dodged a bullet there, because personally, I just don't think that that's the right culture for you to be going into anyway, because that's just really bad. And this is something I faced quite a lot during my interviews. In fact, I remember like there was a particular company where I had already done like the assignment. In fact, like I already got a verbal offer, but then they just never sent a written offer, and they literally never
Interesting.
responded to any of my emails again. Yeah. So ultimately, I think there can be some really bad experiences, but that have nothing to do with your preparation. So I just wanted to put that out there, because it's something that happens quite a lot, especially when you're doing like lots of interviews trying to find a remote work. It can be, some companies can just be like really bad. But in terms of preparing for your interview, one thing that I would say is very useful is like, some for interviews is really the small things. So let me draw from my personal experience again. There was this particular interview that I had, and it was a brand new tech tool for the interview. I think that was like the first time I was trying this video platform called Blue Jeans or something. I'm not quite sure. I had used like Zoom. I've used Zoom. I've used Google Meet. I've used whatever is out there, but I had never heard of Blue Jeans, and I didn't take the time to actually go and look at like the invite to make sure like what's the tech platform. I just assumed that it would be something that I was familiar with and I would be able to use. But ultimately, I ended up being like almost 10 minutes late for the meeting because I was struggling with my tech like 2 minutes to the call. So, so that's why I said it's really the little things, and you're making a first impression, or even if it's not a first impression, you're still thinking about making an impression. So it's
Mhm,
important to review everything, actually take your time to
mhm.
prepare for your interview, practice with the tech that the interviewer is going to use, present yourself well, be in a good mood. Like you need to think about it. You need to be like, yeah, my interview is by 2. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in a great mood from like 1:30 so that I can engage this interviewer and have a really good conversation. and I can speak confidently. So whatever it is that your process looks like for getting yourself into that mode, it's important that you actually like do the mental preparation for like, I'm going to go and talk to someone now and I need to put my best foot forward and I need to, be engaging and I need to leave them with a warm impression, because ultimately like we are people hire people. I've been in positions where I've had to hire people as well to join my team. And when I'm recruiting, something I constantly look out for is just also like, what does that conversation feel like? What does the connection feel like? Because people are smart, like there's tons of smart people. 9 out of 10 times you're not going to be the only smart applicant, but ultimately like if your resume, at the point where I'm choosing to have a conversation with you, it means that your resume and portfolio already have some important details that I'm interested in finding out about. But through those interviews, I'm going to be looking to get to know you a bit more, and also, just evaluate if, on a cultural level, if there's an alignment or if there's a fit. So it's not until you get to the culture fit chat before you start like trying to think about like how you're presenting yourself with respect to aligning with an organization's culture. But I would think about like, doing your research beforehand, even looking up your interviewer. Like that's something that you absolutely have to do. Like if somebody's going to interview you and you've seen their name in invite, like look them up, look at their LinkedIn, look at what they're interested in, look at what they're talking about. Just get to know them, know who you're going to go and meet and who you're going to have a conversation with, because that can also be very helpful. Like I have so many stories, honestly. But anyway, yes, it's important to look at who you're going to talk to. You'll be very surprised sometimes the kind of things that you can find. And that could also be something that could be very flattering. Something else is obviously like do your research on the company and the role. Like research it sounds like it goes without saying, like, oh, I obviously do my research, but it's so important because ultimately, like, it's part of the things that is going to set you apart as someone who's, really serious about the opportunity, really excited about the role. Because, like I said, beyond your skills, at the point where an interviewer is already talking about you, your resume, your portfolio, have already covered. This is what I can do. This is what I've done in the past. That's not why they're there to talk to you on the phone. Ultimately, they want to verify those things. But beyond that, they also want to get a sense of who you are as a person, what your work ethic looks like, what your research skills looks like. And I know that, like, when I was actually getting my own first ever international, like, remote full-time job, one of the things that helped me through the application was the fact that in my last call with like the VP of marketing at the time, I went into the call and I had like a notebook in my hand. And when we were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I was actually looking at the blog and I found out that XYZ. In fact, I made a few notes. I didn't make that many notes, but I just added that. And she was just like, oh my God, like, I love your level of preparation. This is so awesome. You took notes. I'm like, yeah, like I did, I did some research. It was just a conversation. I didn't take that many notes, but that was a personal, like, it was an added touch that really just helped the interviewer feel like this person is really passionate about this opportunity. They're taking the time to, do the research. They're taking the extra step. They're interested. They're curious. These are all the things that interviewers, always look out for. So I would say, like, take that time. It might be challenging, you have your full-time job or not, and you have lots of other competing priorities, but it's something that it's an investment that I think will always pay off when you take the time to do your research beforehand, and be intentional about building rapport with your interviewer, and just like talking to them as a human being. Like, this is another human being, like trying to have like a casual conversation while still like putting your best foot forward and representing your skills and your experience. Those are definitely some things I would share with respect to interviews.
Aisha, you should start charging like $1,000 per hour to like literally teach people how to like do these things, because come on,
please.
he just gave everyone a template. Please guys, Aisha is charging like $1,000 per hour. I take 10% of whatever she's making.
Look at this
you just literally gave a template. And also, like, just like a quick funny story about like interviewers like ghosting people, and I'll also like share like a couple of tips. I think that was like 3 years or 4 years ago. Some guys reached out to me. It's a crypto company in Nigeria, right? And they're like trying to like expand and stuff like that. And they're like, oh yeah, that they see what I've done and they loved it and they want to like have a conversation with me. And so they reached out to me on LinkedIn. We had like a Zoom chat. The CEO was there. The COO was there. The VP of marketing was there. The HR guy was there. So it was like a panel, like having a conversation with me. And the conversation was so good. Like we had like a very good rapport. I answered all their questions, both technical questions, cultural fit questions, every single thing. We've even started talking about podcasts and books that we've read, and we're just literally gisting on the call for like 2 hours, 30 minutes, literally, right? And I'm like, yo, I've gotten this job. I was like, yo, Milton, you're good. You've gotten the job. Yeah, I was so happy. I was like, I was happy. But 2 weeks into the after the interview, I didn't hear from anyone. I was like, what's happening? Was it my lighting? Was it I don't know. Like, did I give them too many information? Was it like how much I wanted to get paid for? Then I reached out to them and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we forgot to get back to you. We had a very good conversation with you, but XYZ, we're not like we can't hire you right now, which was fine because it wasn't from like a skill set level, from like but like a pay level. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. But ghosting happens. People will literally ghost you. Ghosting doesn't happen only in relationship. When it comes to hiring, people will ghost you like 100%, right? So just get into the interview knowing that okay, these guys might also like ghost me. So let me not attach like any emotions to it. It happens. Also me being in the position of like hiring, management, and every other thing. Um, um, People that like interview and that people that hire, they don't like people that lie on their CV, because most times people on their CV or portfolio, they write, "Oh, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that," like just amazing things. And you get into a conversation with them, and you start asking like technical questions, and they won't be able to like answer the most simple technical question that you're asking them, which is very exhausting for like people that are also like hiring and interviewing, right? So if you know that you can't do XYZ, don't put it in your CV with hopes that you're going to learn on the job, right? It's good to actually, put your best foot forward, but also be true to yourself and also like save people like lots of time and stress. And even if you're not like so good at that thing, read about it, do your research about it, go study about it, have some knowledge about it, right? So that when people ask you this question, so for instance, if you're actually applying for a role as a content marketer, you will obviously be asked a question about SEO, right? And what if you don't know about SEO and you have it in your CV and they ask you what are keywords, how do you research for keywords, how do you use SEMrush, and you don't know these things? People are going to call you fluff and they will move on. Your CV can be good, right? But you have to be good as well. Like some motivational speakers say, the content should be as good as the container, right? So whatever you're putting on your CV or your portfolio, it should be solid. See, guys, I am dropping live lessons for you here. Literally, you need to like you need to run me my check. But yeah, that's that. And again, like the replay of this is going to be live, so you can actually like go back and watch it and just pick out some tips that you can use like in your next interview. I can see Efia Aku saying loving this so far, amazing. Chidu Bame is saying she's so good. Yes, Aisha is so good. Hamilton is so good as well. Thank you so much. God bless you. Guys, if you have questions or if you have like questions that you want to ask about like remote work, looking for remote jobs, your LinkedIn or anything, please just drop it on the chat box. Because we'll soon be going into like the points where we'll start asking people questions. Aisha, before we like move on with things about like visa, work permits, and all of those other things that people need to like have, that people need to know when they're applying for like remote work. What other thing do you think people should know about in like interview preparation, or any other thing you think people should just have an idea of?
I would say like just two things to add, especially like to the interview bit. It's just as you said, like it's important to prepare ahead of the interview. It's also important to think ahead of some questions that you'd love to ask the interviewer as well. It's always a good touch when you ask questions. And also like take notes during the interview, because that's something that you can always refer to in your other interviews. Oftentimes interviews are a process, so you can always refer to things that were said in the other interview, and that just really shows that okay, this person is on job really, and they're really invested in the process. And ultimately as well, like beyond the interview, after the interview, it's just as Milton said, sometimes some recruiters will ghost you or some companies will ghost you, but ultimately sometimes ghosting is not what's happening. It's important to also, feel confident enough to ask for feedback and to ask to follow up as well. Sometimes recruiters are just really late on getting back to people. It doesn't mean that you've been eliminated from the process. It doesn't mean that they've forgotten about you. Things fall through the cracks sometimes. So it's important to take your future into your own hands and, reach out, follow up, thank the interviewer for their time, and ask them, when you can expect to hear back from them, ask for feedback. Yeah, those are definitely some things that I'll add on that front specifically.
Awesome. So before I go into the next phase and also like question and answer, guys, please, I need you to do this for me. Take a screenshot of your screen right now if you're seeing this on like your phone, or take a photo of your screen if you're like seeing this via your laptop or television. Go on. Aisha, no. Go on Instagram and post it on your stories and tag at TribeBlob and also Smarketers Hub. Please, Aisha, can you like send like the Instagram handle of Smarketers Hub so that I can add it to like, so guys, let's know people should know what's going on here right now. So take a screenshot, tag at TribeBlob and also tag at Smarketers Hub. Literally, that's the name. So I'll just add it to the banner right now at Tribe. So let's see for Blob, TribeBlob, Smarketers, and for Smarketers Hub. Okay, so for Blob is at TribeBlob and for Smarketers Hub is at Smarketers Hub, literally. So Aisha, in like the counts, like I'll count down to 3 and we're going to strike a pose. Since you want to strike a pose, I'll count down to 3 and we're going to strike a pose and everyone will like take a screenshot and guys tag us and just let people know what you're learning here. Also on Twitter as well at TribeBlob and at Smarketers Hub. So 3, 2, 1. Yes, also I guess that's enough time. That's enough time.
Thank you.
You want to do it again? So now, so before we get into dealing with visa and work permits issues and all of those other time zone things that people need to like figure out when they're like working remotely, I have one question here from Ferami Okuku, and she is asking, how do you deal with discriminations that come from some foreign recruiters?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is, unfortunately, it can be quite prevalent. I think ultimately there's very little that you can, control. I think it really depends on like what sort of discrimination has happened. If a recruiter is being like blatantly like, I don't know, racist to you, for example, whilst like talking to you personally, like that's a situation that I would do my best to remove myself from and just like, yeah, this is not for me, because ultimately, like, whilst the company is interviewing you, you should also be interviewing them. And you should also be evaluating if that is a job that you want to go into and if that's a company or a space that you want to work. Because at the end of the day, it's not worth doing all of this if you're going to going to leave the company in a few months, for example. This is a lot of work. Applying for work is very exhausting. So I would say, like, let it be a two-way street. If you start feeling like, a company is discriminating against you, or a recruiter is being racist, or, an interview that you had did not go pleasantly, then you should really be evaluating for yourself, like, do I really want to work here? And if the answer is no, then, on to the next. And I would say, something that you can also consider is like giving that feedback, like, ultimately, this is feedback that people need to hear, because at the end of the day, like, people need to learn to be able to work with people from diverse cultures and be able to, level the playing field. So if someone has treated you in a way that is discriminatory, you should be, you should feel comfortable enough to offer them their feedback. I know it's not easy, but if you're not going to work there anyway, the least you can do is tell them that, like, yeah, this is a discriminatory policy, or this way that you've acted is discriminatory, this is racist. Like, just put it out there, because this happens quite a lot, it happens quite frequently, and it's not something you have to tolerate ultimately. And I mean, if this is something that you've ever experienced, I'm really sorry, because it can be quite disheartening. to go through that. But yeah, I would say
Sure.
you should be evaluating the company as well. And if you know you're starting to see those signs or pick up on discrimination, don't stand for it really.
Sure.
And consider
Sure.
other options you should.
Yeah. Also, just to add to what Aisha just said, it's important that you have an idea of what they pay people in like Europe and US before you also like get into the interview and when you guys are talking about salary expectations, so that you won't be paid because like you won't be paid low because you're living in Africa. And that's one thing most people do is that they come down to like Africa to like hire for cheap because again they understand like issues that's like issues that's going on in Africa. Just like I also have like a personal like experience, and this just happened like I think that was last year December or so. This guy reached out to me and they told me about his product and yada yada yada. It's so amazing, and he was like, okay, because and it was more like from like a consulting role where I consult for the company, and he was like, oh, how much like are you going to charge to like consult for us at least 2 times per week? And I told the guy my fee, right? White guy from like USA. And I told him my fee for like consultation. And he was like, I know Nigerians that would take a fraction of what you're charging and they'll literally be happy. I was like, okay, wait. So it was just giving racism and just discrimination and everything. And I was like, yo, thanks for like reaching out. I can't have this conversation with you. I can't work with you. And he came back some other time. I was like, okay, yes, I'm going to pay your fee. And I was still like, no, fam. Thank you so much for reaching out. I can have this conversation with you and I can work with you as well. And that's it. So just like watch out for like these red flags, right? And also like have an idea of like what people actually like, what people earn outside your country, like in Europe and US, so that you can also have an idea of like what you're going to like tell them you want as your own salary as well. So I mean, thanks for
Something
yeah.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to add to
Yes, please.
that, beyond looking, globally to see like what people are earning, a good measure,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're working remotely, and also when you're like trying to get your first remote role, something else
Mm-hmm.
that I think is a good measure is, thinking about like what do you want to earn? Because
Mm,
ultimately, like when you're just breaking into this market, it can be really difficult sometimes to compete on that like global level,
level.
especially like in
Sure.
the higher band. Also, because like the company is also in from their perspective, they're thinking I'm taking a chance on this person because working remotely also comes with a lot of trust. They want to be sure that this person is someone that if they leave, is able to like manage themselves and do their work and make sure that they're
Mm-hmm.
coming up with like the right outcomes and stuff like that. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say ultimately like look at like what the global benchmarks are, but also ask yourself like what do you want to earn? Think about that. Like
Mm,
that's so important. Like what do you need to earn to live the what are you trying to do to your quality of life? Like are you trying to raise your quality of
mm,
life to a certain level? And what do you
mm,
need to be able to get that? So it's
mm.
important. You need to know how much money you need in life. Like think about what you want to
Sure.
earn.
Sure.
And then that way you can, because you can then set that benchmark for yourself and say, okay, I'm going into the job market and this is what I want to earn. Like that ultimately, I
Okay.
think that's how I've approached salaries in my life. I see what's
Okay.
happening globally, but I'm just like me, I want to earn X. Whether it's higher
X.
or lower
Sure.
than what's happening globally, this is what I
This
need
is
to
what I
be
want to
earning
earn.
right now to
Yeah.
live the type of life that I'm trying to live. And this is something I
Leave.
know that I would be able to get or I deserve based on my work and my years of experience. So how do I make sure that I'm positioning myself and putting those things front and center to make sure that anybody that is looking at me can see and say that yes, this person can definitely command this salary that she's asking for.
Sure.
So it's
Sure.
always a case of what do you want to earn and how are you showing that you're somebody that should be earning that amount and can be earned that can pay that amount, can earn that amount. I can't speak English,
It's
it's
fine.
crazy.
It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. And you live in UK as well, London to be specific. It's fine.
But yeah.
Yeah, solid one, Aisha. Thanks for actually sharing that. And also thanks for me for like asking this question. I think this is a very important question. Also we have a question from Sandra Tabansi. Sandra, are you Nigerian? Because your last name isn't giving Nigerian right now. And I think it's a she. She is asking, what red flags can one watch out for when applying for international remote jobs? I feel like we've answered this, but if you like have like other like red flags that people can look out for, you could just share it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say ask questions like, when a company is not being transparent enough about their process and what to expect, that can be worrisome. So ask questions right off the bat, like what's the interview process going to be like? If there's an assessment, what's that assessment going to be like? Is it going to be paid or not? If it's not paid, you need to ask yourself, and also, be at a place where you're like, this is the level of work that I'm able to do for an interview. Like, I'm not going to do beyond this. I'm able to, I'm happy to do like a sample content calendar, but maybe for a week, but I'm not going to do a sample content calendar for a month for an interview. So think about like what should that look like? And also, it's not something that you make up in your head. Obviously, do your research and see like different jobs and interview processes. Go on Glassdoor, go on Blind, go and read like what are companies asking people for. But ultimately, I think it's important that a company can be transparent about their process. Another red flag is definitely like past employees. What are they saying? Like if they're talking about like how the culture is really bad and people are frustrated and quitting, people are working on weekends and they're not getting any rest. I mean, those things are written, they're there. I even search like companies that I'm reviewing. I look for them on like Twitter, like what are people saying about them as well, because it's so important to make sure that you're not going to throw yourself into the deep end. So I would say just do as much research as possible. And if something doesn't feel right to you, it most likely isn't right. It's so important that we need to, like, as professionals, learn to trust our gut and like dig deeper when it feels like something is not right, because you're in this industry, you're doing the work, you're deserving of a good job, So if you are getting the sense that something is not right from a job that you're applying for, from an interview process, like dig deeper, ask questions, make sure that you actually pursue that feeling, because ultimately you're going to invest a lot of your time and resources into it, and you want to get the best outcomes possible. So I would say trust your gut, but also do as much research as possible. If something doesn't feel right, it most likely isn't right.
Isn't right. Yeah, it makes sense. If something doesn't feel right, it's most likely not right. And I also love the fact that you mentioned about like culture. I think culture is very important. Culture is, I mean, in my opinion, I might be wrong, but culture might be more important than the salary actually, because you wouldn't want to like be working in a place where they're like you're working on during the weekends, they don't respect your time, they don't respect your personal space, and they're just like dragging and stringing you along, and they don't know how to like give clear feedback whenever like they're working with you. So I think culture is very important. So just research more about like the culture of the company, ask people and ask around. So thank you so much for this question, Sandra. We have one more question from Blessing. Then we'll go down and talk about like visa and all of those other things. Then we take at least one more question before we put an end to this conversation. Blessing Irabo is asking, how do you suggest one build? Thank God you're asking a portfolio question, because the queen of portfolio is here. How do you suggest one build a portfolio, especially when trying to break into tech and you're transitioning from a generalist as a digital marketer to a growth marketer? I feel this question is for you and I, so you can come from like the portfolio end, and I can come from like the growth marketing end.
Yeah, I think you go first. Let's talk about growth, and then I'll talk about the portfolio bit.
Okay. So basically, one thing people like confuse themselves, the digital marketing and growth marketing, they're like same thing. And I actually love the fact that you've been able to see that they're like two different things, because you're coming from like a digital marketing end to like a growth marketing end. And growth marketing literally deals with more data and analytics and asking your question, asking questions like what's working and what's not working, asking questions like sorry, I lost my train of thought for a bit. Aisha, thank you so much. Asking questions about what's working and what's not working. Doing like different growth tests, different things that will make sure that the needle is being moved. So you literally have to like do things over and over again that will actually move the needle. And also you need to know that digital marketing is an aspect of growth marketing, because you can literally like use digital marketing to like drive growth for your products. But as a growth marketer, you should like think beyond digital marketing and think about how you can like do other offline things literally that can also help drive growth for the product. So in your portfolio or in like your CV or your profile or whatever, you should actually talk about your experience as a digital marketer from the growth marketing point of view. oh, how did you use SEO to like drive growth for like a particular product, or how did you use media buying to like drive growth for like a particular product, or how did you actually optimize the onboarding flow for a product that also help to increase activation, right? Using all of these keywords will also help you in your portfolio and also help you like get jobs. So, just very important keywords. Oh, I optimize this email flow that helped us increase activation. And activation from this sense, from like a digital marketer, might be sales, people buying. You just need to like change the wording to like activation, right? Or saying, okay, we performed this type of campaign on social media that made XYZ product go viral, right? So literally talk about what you do as a digital, or what you've done as a digital marketer from a growth marketing point of view, literally, and just start looking at keywords that growth marketers use: move the needle, viral campaigns, activation, all of those, very nice. I know you're laughing because I say move the needle. I love saying that over and over again. All of those very nice keywords. Oh, we were able to reduce the cost per click, or cost per customer acquisition, because we introduced this new ad sets, or we were able to like increase sign up for like this product because of XYZ thing, right? So literally, digital and growth marketing, they are a little bit similar, but they are not the same thing. But if you're like a digital marketer, you can talk about your experience from like a digital marketing point of, or you can talk about your digital marketing experience from like a growth marketing point of view. I think that could work for you. Please, Aisha, what do you have to say from like, from your experience as well?
Yeah, ultimately, I think you've shared something that I think is really key, like contextualizing the experience that you currently have and thinking about like how to best represent that for the role that you're trying to get into is ultimately like one of the most important things when it comes to building a portfolio. But more generally, like for creatives, it can be really challenging to build a portfolio because, like, for instance, like people who are doing, I don't know, software development or design, they have like their portfolios are more visual and things like that. And there's a certain like way that they build portfolios. But for like marketers, there's no sort of like there's no specific sort of expectation for portfolios. Some people have like writing portfolios, other people have, a big document where they just talk about all sorts of different things. So I would say, like, for me, something that really helped me is just thinking about like what exactly is the information I want my portfolio to pass across, right? And from tweaking my portfolio and ultimately like making edits before eventually like getting into a version where it was then successful and I started getting more interviews. I learned a lot from that process, and I think that's also what inspired me to put together Portfolio for Creatives, my first digital product, actually. So Blessing, I think that one could be a really good one for you because Portfolio for Creatives is essentially like a template that helps you, it gives you like practical guidance to structure your portfolio. Like, how should your portfolio be structured? And something that I see like a lot of creatives also struggle with is, with respect to like building a portfolio, people struggle with like, oh, should I go and design it in Canva? Should it be like some complex document? It really doesn't need to be that. Like, it can be simple, it can be quick, it can be straight to the point. I think obviously like key things would be to obviously like introduce yourself. Don't think about it as a repetition of your resume. Just introduce yourself briefly, link to your resume, describe your process as well, especially for you like breaking into tech. Like, what part of your process? Like, are you an agile marketer, for example? Like, is that how you approach your work? That's something that could be very appealing for a recruiter who's already working with a tech company to see in your portfolio. So think about your process when you're picking projects that you want to represent as well. Think about like the role that you're applying for. If you're breaking into a new industry, is there anything from your experience that is relevant to that particular role? Are there specific things that you've done that you could tweak in a certain way to make it more relevant to the job that you're trying to get, the new, the new role that you're trying to apply for? So I would say that's very important. And also, like, on the projects that you've put in your portfolio, it's important to give context as well. Like, a lot of the time when we do things, like, you forget that the person on the other side doesn't know as much about what you've written as you. So if you're talking about like helping an e-commerce company do something, increasing a particular metric, like, who is that e-commerce company, like where are they, where are they in the industry, and after your work, like, were there any results? So what was the impact of your work? Did that change their position in the industry? So think about it more holistically. Think about like the impact that your work is making on the business, because ultimately when someone is hiring you, they're not hiring you to come and just like, become another like headcount. They're hiring you with the hope that you'll be able to, make an impact that ultimately, like, everything is connected to revenue ultimately. So think about like in your past experience, how have you connected your work to revenue as well? What kind of impact have you made for the business? And it may not even necessarily always be revenue, but look for diverse examples. Have you helped with like the brand gaining more recognition? Have you helped to simplify a process? Like, think about the more holistic impact of your work and make sure that your portfolio represents that as well. And also it's good to add some feedback. I'm talking a lot now, but I think the portfolio for creative is a great product. It's a really great product, if I do say so myself, because my product. But anyway, it will definitely help you with just thinking about like the best way to structure your portfolio in a way that's really simple, really easy, because ultimately you want your recruiter to get maximum value out of it. Like, you're not trying to give them the most fancily designed documents in the world. You really just want them to get a sense of like, this is what this person does, and be able to quickly and easily like review that and get a sense of what you're trying to say. Something else I think that's also important to add here is I've seen a lot of marketers, because obviously we have an eye for design oftentimes, like when you work in marketing. So people want to design their resumes in Canva and stuff like that. All of that is great, but when you're looking for a remote job, it's important to note that lots of like companies use applicant tracking systems, and those systems are essentially like tools that run through resumes to qualify sort of like if the content on the resume is as aligned as possible with like the job ad that they've put out. So the ATS, the applicant tracking system, does that first initial review before a human being even looks at your application. A lot of the time, like, that's what a lot of companies do. I have friends who are recruiters, and that's like how they sort through, like, because they get lots of applications, so they want to make sure that they're looking at the most tailored ones. And what you find is that when you design your resume in like Canva or any of all these other tools, it can really distort sort of the way that the applicant tracking system is able to look through the resume. So what I would recommend, and something I think was also game changing for me, is really creating a resume in Google Docs. Like, it's a simple two-page like PDF docx like type file. It looks good, but it works. So ultimately I think like we like to think that things need to necessarily be like complicated and stuff. But when you're thinking more globally, you need to make sure that you're thinking about like the lowest barrier to entry, something that looks good and ultimately like hits the nail on the head in terms of positioning you as someone who can get the job done. That's what you should care about. Obviously, like how it looks visually is important, but think about like accessibility for a wide range of companies and tools and processes. So think about like making sure that your resume and your application in total would be able to fit into anywhere, really.
Makes sense. Aisha, you're a masterclass. That's all I can say. You are a masterclass yourself, right? And also, just to talk more about Aisha's portfolio for creative, just so I'm not like selling it myself. See what Sandra said. So I said, I bought your portfolio, Aisha, and it challenged me to talk about the things I've done. So, guys, if you're sleeping on a bicycle, stop sleeping on a bicycle. Literally, go get Aisha's portfolio for creative, because it shows you like literally, just like Sandra said, everything that you've done, you'll be challenged, like, put it out there, and it would also like give you like a better opportunity to like for people to listen to you, to like get more jobs, or like just like get more interviews and stuff like that. So please go to seller.co/portfolio for creatives and get it. When you get it, thank me later, because again, it's going to like change your life literally. Also, Efia Aku said, I'm sure this is Gifts, right? Said, I'm such a Canva girl, so this was for me. Thank you. Amazing. I'm sure that we're all getting value from this. Please, if you're like having a good time and you're getting value from like this conversation, just give me the fire emoji on the comment box. Okay, just give me the fire emoji on the comment box so that I can know that we're communicating and we're actually sharing value with you. That'll be very helpful. That'll be a very helpful feedback to us. While you're giving us like the fire emoji, I think I'm going to wait a bit. At least let me get on fire emoji before like just talk about visa and work permit issues, then just conclude the whole conversation. I'm waiting for your fire emoji, guys. Give me the fire emoji. Amazing. Ahmed John Cosmas. Amazing. Let's go. Amazing. I'm sure that I'm happy that we're all getting value from this. Esther Felix, amazing, amazing, amazing. That's solid. That's solid. Awesome. Chi Dubem, thank you, thank you, thank you, Chi Dubem, thank you, Chi Dubem, amazing. Oh, thank you, gifts. Thank you, guys, thank you, guys, amazing, amazing. So, now let's talk about dealing with visa and work permit issues. People they've gotten like the jobs, just like you. I think you relocated, right? And you were actually working remotely when you were in Nigeria, and I think I heard that story somewhere. I can't remember when. And you asked, "Oh, does my job support XYZ thing?" And they said yes, and you took up the opportunity and you left. So I mean, would you want to like talk about that story? I might be wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that story and also like the whole dealing with work with visa and work permit issues?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one that I think is really interesting because, you know, when I got my remote job, when I started working, I actually had no intention of moving out of Nigeria at that time. I mean, I had been flirting with the idea of relocating and living somewhere else temporarily. And yes, I do have a video up on Timi's channel where we had that conversation. But at the time when I joined that company, that was not something that was really top of mind for me. But when the NSAS sort of like protests were happening and it was just a really chaotic time, at that time I started sort of like thinking about like what it would look like to take advantage of like digital nomad visas and go and live somewhere else for a while. So I was already doing some research on my own, and I just decided to, you know, give my manager some updates. And I was just telling her like during our one-on-one that, you know, this is a situation in the country, and I'm thinking of like just moving somewhere else for maybe like a year or something, just taking a break. And she was like, "Oh, you should absolutely come here." And I'm like, "Oh, but I didn't want to ask because like it doesn't say anything in my contract, and I wasn't even concrete. Like I wasn't sure if I wanted to move to Mexico, but I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I just had that conversation with her, and you know, ultimately that was the beginning of the process. She got in contact with the people team, and before you know what was happening, I was talking to immigration, and I eventually relocated. So there are lots of different things that I think I've picked apart from that experience. The first thing is closed mouths don't get fed. Like absolutely, like if you want anything in this life, you need to just open your mouth and say it. Like you need to say it. You know, you need to ask for it. I wasn't even asking for it. I was actually sharing. But what that has now like sort of enabled me to do is if I'm in a situation where I feel like, you know, there's someone who can potentially help me achieve something that I want to achieve, I would just share like sort of my journey with them and see if they have any insights or if they have anything to offer or add. But more specifically towards like remote work. So if you're thinking about moving and you're not entirely concrete yet, or you know you're not sure like how you want to go about it or where you want to move to, getting a remote job, even if you know your contract doesn't say anything about the company relocating you, could be a good strategy, because then you can start working with the company, you can build that relationship, you can make an impact, and then you can put in that ask. Companies are more likely to actually go the extra mile to relocate marketing talents when they already know you, and there's a level of connection versus like when, you know, at the point of application, because ultimately like home offices also have rules around like who companies, like the kind of talents that companies can relocate into the country, because they also want to make sure that like the we want to make sure that like the local talents are getting enough opportunities. And unfortunately, marketing is not one of those roles where a lot of companies are relocating people from all over the world to come and work for them. That's more common for like software engineers and like designers and other technical roles. So what I would say is like marketing, like leveraging relationships, start the remote work from wherever you are in the world, build that relationship, and that's an ask that you can put forward later on. Something else that I can also say is like you can also take advantage of like things like digital nomad visas. There's so many of them, and every day I see people sharing stories, people who are, you know, working and are working remotely from, you know, Nigeria or other parts of Africa and have reached the income requirements, are able to like take advantage of lots of different digital nomad visas to places like Malta, Portugal, different places all around Europe, and are able to go and live and work there for up to 3 years or even 4 years, depending on like what kind of visa they get and extension. So what I would just say is like with respect to visas, there's lots of opportunities. It might be challenging to get a job in marketing that will relocate you right off the bat. But think of it as like think of it more strategically. Think about like, you know, phases, like get your job first, start building that relationship. Your job can ultimately open up two paths for you. It can either, you know, get you to a place where the company themselves are able and willing to relocate you, or to a place where you then meet the income requirements and all the other requirements to pursue a digital nomad visa on your own. This is definitely something that you should, do a lot more research on, because it ultimately depends on what kind of country you want to move to and what the individual requirements are. But when it comes to visas specifically and dealing with like those issues, this is how I've sort of processed it with respect to marketing.
Awesome, and also, I mean, also try to like look out for like countries that actually like support like remote workers, or that are like forward thinking and like need more innovators around. And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Kigali, because I mean it's that country that like just they want like more innovators around, more tech people, right? But again, please do your research, know what works for you, ask questions. Closed mouths don't get fed, so please ask questions and ask for things as much as you can. So, I mean, we've practically come to an end of this conversation. Just to actually, just so that we can see that people are getting value from this. Overcomer Umukoro said, "This is great to hear, because sometimes I feel like I do a lot of things I struggle to define what kind of marketing I do." I think she's actually referring to your portfolio template. So please, Overcomer, get it so that you can overcome this challenge that you're getting, that you're having right now.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do. I literally saw that coming. I saw it coming. I don't know.
I couldn't help myself. Ahmed Young said, "Ask with your full chest." Yes, guys, please ask with your full chest. Closed mouths don't get fed. Sammy Touch, oh, thank you so much, guys, for actually like tuning into this conversation. And also, if you actually want to like find out more about like the UK Global Tech Talent Visa, Aisha had an interview on, was it Benjamin's Dada blog, if I'm being correct, where she spoke about it.
Yeah.
Right. So please just like check on Google for that. You can also check out PC Timmy's YouTube channel. She talks a whole lot about like relocating to UK and stuff like that. And also literally go to their website, right, and just try to like get more information, and look out for like people in your industry or your friends or community that have actually moved, and get to like ask them, questions, and just get to like know exactly how they were able to do it as well. Guys, thank you so much, guys, for like showing up and actually being here. Please, you should actually connect with Aisha on our website. It talks about everything that she has shared here. Her website is sheistheaisha.com. Sheistheaisha.com. She is literally the Aisha.com. So please check out our website. I mean, she spoke about everything here in this conversation. Everything is on our website about like the different options that you can use, and literally most of the things that we had in this conversation. And also, please follow at Marketers Hub on Instagram and Twitter, and also like follow TribeBlob at TribeBlob on Twitter and Instagram, and also at Marketers Hub on Twitter and Instagram. And also, please, when you follow Marketers Hub, try to like join their community. Literally, try to like do your best to join their community. And also, when you follow Blob as well, do that also. And you can check me out everywhere on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter at Milton22. Everywhere. Aisha, please, what's your Instagram handle as well, and like your social media handle? Because I know that it's private. I really don't know why it's private, but I'll call you out.
You can connect with me. My social media is also on my website. If you visit my website, sheistheaisha.com, it literally has like links to everything. So that's
all right then. So visit our website, you find everything. Guys, thank you so much for turning up. And please, if you have any question, if you're part of like the Bloppers tribe, you can ask your questions in the community, and also we'll be sending like the replay of like this webinar to everyone that really starts tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, so that you can get the replay, and also links to like all communities, right? So like links to Marketers Hub community, and also like links to like links to Bloppers tribe, so that you can just be part of like these conversations that we're having. Aisha, before we like put an end to this conversation, what's that one thing that you think people should know? I wouldn't call it last words, but what's that thing that one thing that you think people should know when they are trying to like get like an international remote job?
Yeah, ultimately, I would say you need to be tenacious. Like, I think you need to just keep going. It can be a really challenging process just because it's time consuming, it's draining. Looking for a job, anyway is always a stressful process, I think. So it's just important to be tenacious, keep your eyes on the goal, and just keep trying, keep going for what you want. You'll find what you want. If you're in an environment where you're experiencing any sort of discrimination, don't feel pressured to stay in that environment just because like you're hearing back from that particular company or whatnot. Ultimately, like, it's important to prioritize yourself and prioritize your mental health and also the kind of environment that you want to be working in, because that's really important. Like, beyond getting the job, what happens after is part of your real life, and you need to make sure that you're optimizing for the best situation for you. So yeah, just keep going, and I really wish everyone the best. I hope that this conversation has been very helpful, or at least like informative in some way for you. And yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Aisha. For me, I would say focus on the things that you can control, meaning focus on getting your portfolio, focus on like getting your CV right, focus on optimizing your LinkedIn, focus on looking for jobs and actually applying for those jobs, right? Focus on those things that you can control, right? And also, if you're like actually looking for jobs, also think about it from like a marketing point of view, right? It's like, oh, if I want to like get 10 people to like respond to me, I need to like speak to 100 people, right? So apply as much as you can, right? Get as much leads as you can, literally, right? So, I mean, two things: focus on the things that you can control, and just apply as much as you can to like so many companies and stuff like that. And of course, people are going to get back to you, and you're going to get that one company that will hire you. But thank you so much, guys, for actually showing up for like this conversation. Thanks, Aisha, for making yourself available. You could be anywhere right now in the world doing anything, but it's like to be here to have this conversation with us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. God bless you. Thanks a lot, really. And I enjoyed having this conversation with you. Thanks, guys, and do have a phenomenal night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.